Welcome to the Private Lender Podcast with your hosts from Hard Money Bankers, Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by hardmoneymastermind.com.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Private Lenders Podcast. Chris and Jason here to talk some private lending, hard money lending. We're going to be recapping the Inner Circle meeting that we had for Hard Money Mastermind members over 2 days here in Columbia, Maryland last week. We took a couple days to digest over the weekend, and then we wanted to jump on the podcast and talk about how it all went. So in case some people, podcast listeners, aren't familiar with Hard Money Mastermind, there's a few different levels to it. So we want to create a community of private lenders and hard money lenders that can access it for free. You know, they can create a free account, join the conversation, use the training and videos and other tools, all that stuff, right? We also have a premium membership for people who want to get in on the monthly group training. And then what we've been planning for a while is to have an Inner Circle mastermind meeting. And I'm going to explain how that all works. This is the first one that we've done offline in this format. Obviously, over the past couple of years of pandemic, we haven't been able to do that. And now it was time. Now it was time for the people who really want to commit to growing their private lending business and who have a lot to learn to come out and work with us for 2 full days. So that's exactly what we did last week. We're going to talk all about it because it was really cool and honestly worked out even better than I had hoped.
Yeah, like Chris said, there's a lot of different levels inside the Hard Money Mastermind, and that's how it's always been. And depending on what level you're at, can determine and what level you're at in your business will determine kind of what action plan you want to take to the next level. And a lot of the folks that came out were experienced operators, and they fell in one of 2 buckets, I would say. Some of them had, good amount of disposable capital that they wanted to deploy, and they're looking and they wanted to learn more about how to deploy that capital responsibly. And the other half had capital of their own plus investor capital that they're growing, and they want to continue to raise more capital and create more of a built-out operation. So it was a good mix in the room. Like Chris said, it's a group of about 20 lenders. We're not sure if we're going to open it up to additional lenders in the future. We'll see, right? We want to figure out how big the group size should be, because obviously you want to provide as much value as possible. And, it was 2 really long days, right? So you want to make sure
right.
You can do so. I will say, though, that our next event is in May, and there's a few that cannot attend that group. So there will be some openings just because of that. But we're trying to figure out if 20 is the right number, or if it's 25, or if it's 30. I'm not 100%. Not 100% sure how that's going to play out. I don't know if you're listening or watching this, if you've ever been a member of a mastermind group, but it's all about each attendee. And we'll dive into how the mastermind worked, how the actual section worked, and then you'll learn a little bit more about that side.
Yeah, for sure. So we had, it was getting close to 20, maybe 15, 16 lenders, something like that. Some people brought like a business partner or someone from their staff. So the room was like 20 and change total, and people from all over the country. We had Michigan, Florida, a couple from Texas, a couple from Missouri. We had a Georgia in there. Maybe that was Alabama. And everyone is, like Jason was saying, in different spots in their business, and people have different goals too, but there's a lot of overlap in terms of responsible underwriting, how to market for the right deals, how do we structure these things, stuff to have in place related to your infrastructure of accounting and software and everything else. So here's how the meeting went. And I will break down like what a mastermind format is like. Jason and I have been in a mastermind in the past for business owners, and it was a really, really beneficial experience. So how the structure of the 2-day meeting went was everyone came into town on Wednesday afternoon and evening. They met for a quick informal sort of happy hour to get to know each other, because mind you, a lot of these folks know us, but they didn't know other yet. And that came a long way too. We'll get to that. So Wednesday evening was a little intro happy hour, meet and greet sort of thing. And then we got going early on Thursday. Like Jason said, there are 2 full days. Like mastermind days get pretty heavy. They wear you out. So it was a full 9 to 5 of the mastermind portion, which is each attendee presents a little bit about their business, what they're working on, what they want to grow and improve. And then they get feedback from us and the rest of the group on exactly how to do that. Sharing resources, knowledge, connections, all of it, right? Super, super beneficial. In addition to each one getting their like 30, 45 minutes to do that, we had lined up a few presentations. Jason did one on marketing and origination and scripting. I did one on advanced capital raising. We had our attorney from Philadelphia who does our loan documents for a number of our markets come down with his paralegal and speak. Harris Danoff had a really cool presentation that I think helped out a lot of people, especially related to title review and the other legal issues that people might not be super familiar with, especially newer lenders. And we also had our friend Ian Horowitz, who we have done a number of equity deals with. That's when we're investing equity instead of debt, or sometimes it's debt too. It could be a blend. And how that works differently in terms of what you should look for in a deal like that, in terms of safety and value and collateral, and then also the return, like the pref you get, ownership interest, K1 and depreciation, how that all works. So we had Ian come and break down those deals for the group in case people, and they do, have additional funds they're looking to deploy in smart ways and smart and profitable ways. So those were the presentations and the mastermind portion. We also had lunch brought in every day. There was breakfast. We went out for dinner the first night at a cool seafood restaurant right next to the hotel. And we were like 20, 22 people or something like that. Big tables, really fun, great service and food and everything. And, you know, one of the big takeaways, not only for me, but for the attendees, is how much they connected with each other, right? Maybe they'll end up doing some deals together, or referring stuff to people in another market, whatever, deploying with one another, whatever it may be. It was just a really good vibe in the room. Like, there's a lot of laughter, a lot of joking going on, people like really connecting. And you'd see people kind of break off and go hang out with each other in between sessions and stuff like that. I'm like, this is great. Like this.
Yeah. And that's, I think, the difference between just an event that you learn at and a mastermind where you share experiences and you become kind of family, and you're a group of like-minded people that want to help each other grow. And keep in mind, everybody is in a different part inside their business. And that's why sometimes it's challenging for Chris and myself to do podcasts and masterminds and creating events and things like that, because everyone's in a different spot and everyone has different goals. That's like the blessing and the curse of this business in general, right? It's challenging to give everybody all the information, because where you're at today, or, you know, what we talk about today might not be where you're at, or stuff we talked about may be not advanced for you, or whatever the case is. But this business can be run any way you want it to be, right? Big or small. You know, one of the lenders in there, he had a few, you know, his entire goal is he has a few $1 million that he wants to allocate to this business model, and that's it. You know, he doesn't want to grow. He doesn't want to raise any capital. He has a few $1 million that he wants to deploy in this business, and he wants to do it responsibly. The market's changing. That was a very hot topic of, hey, how do I allocate for market changes in certain areas? You know, should I up price? Should I lower my costs and work with the best of the best real estate investors out there, or should I up my price and expand a little bit? Whatever the case is. So, you know, that was one of them. That was one side of the spectrum. He had a few $1 million of his own capital he wanted to deploy. And the other side, one of the lenders has a good sized portfolio right now, and his 5-term goal, I think, was to get to $100 million deployed. Is that what he said? About $100 million deployed?
I think so.
In 5 years. So
it's either 100 or 120.
Something like that. And that's a big goal. But he put that on paper, and he put that out there to the group. And as a group, we're all going to continue to help him reach that goal if that's what he wants, right? That might not be a goal that I want, or Chris wants, or someone else in that room wants, but that's what he wants, right? Just like, you know, I don't want to just deploy a few $1 million. Like, everyone has different goals of what they want, and it's our job as attendees to to help. So about 25% of the mastermind was the presentations, right? It's important to have different presentations from different service providers, different vendors, including ourselves. But a big portion of it is the actual mastermind session. And the mastermind session was broken up into what we call the brag, ask, and share format. And what do we mean by this? Everybody had about 30 minutes, 30 minutes each. It ended up going over. Some people's ended up going over a lot. Because it was the first one. It was hard to keep the timing right. So we'd have to be a little bit more disciplined in the future. But let's talk about this. So you do a brag. So hey, I'm Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers. I currently have $45 or $50 million deployed. I've been lending money for the last 15 years locally. I do 250 loans a year. Blah 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 in my local market, right? So you brag a little bit about yourself, so people know who you are and
your background, what else you've done, all that, right?
Yeah, and the interesting part is a lot of these guys were very humble related to their presentations, their brag, because they only felt like they should brag about their experience with hard money. Well, a lot of people don't have tons and tons of experience with hard money or private lending. Like you hear it, it's like, that's not all impressive. But it's like, hey, you forgot that you just sold this gigantic real estate brokerage, or you just sold this gigantic tech company, right? Or you founded so-and-so, or you have this, this $1 million a year passive income stream, right? Like they forgot to mention that. It's like, oh, by the way, did you forget to tell everybody that you also own 500 rental properties? So that was a common thing, because everyone was like, okay, well, I've only done 40 loans with my own money. I got a few $1 million deployed. It's not all that impressive. And it's like, well, your background's impressive. And there's a lot of value that can be provided, just not related to the block and tackle of how hard money businesses run. There's a lot of other things that are beneficial. So we did the brag. You start with the brag, then you talk, then you do your ask. Like, hey, what are you hoping to get out of this event? Or what is an immediate need that you need help with? Or, where are you in your business that you just ask for help? So that typically, after the brag starts and then you talk about your ask, that's typically when everybody chimes in, and that's where it gets fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then also throw in a share if you can at the end, which is referring somebody to some kind of resource, or, maybe some software or a connection or something like that, to bring even more value to the group as a whole. So it was super cool. Moving forward, one thing Jason had all the attendees do, is write down on a self-addressed stamped envelope their goals in between now and the next meeting, which is in May. And he's holding them right there. There you go, if you guys are watching on video. And so we'll be mailing these to the attendees. Do you know when those are supposed to go out? Does it matter?
Yeah, a month before our next event in May. So in
a month before our next event, they're going to read what they wrote as their own goal for that time frame, and hopefully we'll have accomplished that by the time they come back for the next meeting. So that's a really cool a tool for accountability, right? So that people want to come back, open up that letter, and say, here was my goal and I hit it. So super cool.
Yeah, no, a lot of really cool takeaways. If you're watching this on YouTube, everybody got a note, a bunch of kind of Hard Money Mastermind Inner Circle swag. We got notebooks, we got coffee mugs, we got things like this, just to tie themselves to this group in the community. Everyone who's in the group got invited to a private Facebook group, so we can, sure. Again, it's a family of lenders at this point, right? So we all want to help each other. I mean, multiple people have shared opportunities since then, shared capital, shared leads, things like that. We're trying to, you build a relationship. If you've ever been involved in a mastermind group, not only are you there to take, but you're there to give. And that's what ends up happening. And think about it. Think about this industry in general. There's so many different ways to be able to work together and help each other. We talked about it at the intro of this podcast. Some folks are there because they want to learn how to responsibly deploy capital. Others are there because they have a great business and they're great operators and they have great deal flow, but they need more capital to put in it, right? Now, that doesn't mean that inside that mastermind group, people are going to share their capital or share their leads or things like that. It might, if you resonate with that person and you do so, but that's how business is done. It's a relationship game. Typically you start small and then you work your way up as you build more and more and more relationships. And I would agree that for the first event, it worked out really, really well. We've had some very positive feedback. We've had some constructive criticism as well, which we encouraged. We asked everybody to fill out surveys, and it was a detailed survey. There was like 15 questions, just so we know how to better plan this out for everyone that's interested in the future. That's what it's about. It's about all of us growing together. The goal of a mastermind group is not for Chris and myself to jump on stage and preach or, hey, this is how you should be doing that. That's not what this is about. It's, hey, we will share our experiences as transparent as we can be with the group, and everyone else is going to share their experience as well. And the point is, like, you want to have the right people in the room that can provide value to each other, and not just someone who's going to take. You need someone that can take, but they can also give. And, if you leave the room and you get one big aha moment, one big takeaway, one big anything, you get your money's worth. I mean, I remember when Chris and I were in Russell Brunson's, who's the owner of ClickFunnels, we were in his inner circle group. It was $25,000 for his mastermind group. And like, it was scary to write that check at the beginning or to wire that funds, however we did it, wire or credit card. I don't remember at the time, but it was scary. It was $25,000. And I remember like the first hour of the first day of the first session, it was like, oh shit, we already made our money back. Like, that was a game changer. And Absolutely. You make it back over and over and over and over and over and over. You do a deal with somebody, you get a tidbit, you cover your ass because you didn't have the right insurance in place. You didn't know this, or you refer to this vendor, whatever the case is. There's lots of ways to make your money back on the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And we certainly did there. And also, and I hope this happens with our group as well. It looks like it is. Like, we're still good friends with a handful of people, and we haven't been in that group in 6-7 years or something like that. And good friends with some people, and stay in touch and do business together in certain ways, depending on how you overlap. Still follow a lot of the people on social media and just see what everyone's up to. So I'm really looking forward to that same camaraderie in the inner circle of ours. So yeah, guys, that's the recap. Hope it was a super interesting 2 full days, and I hope you enjoyed the breakdown of everything that happened here on the Private Lenders Podcast. We will see you next time on the podcast, and also inside the mastermind group. Go ahead and create a free account anytime you want at hardmoneymastermind.com, and we will catch you next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you'd enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced